Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn, and if you're returning, thanks so much for coming back. In a recent tutorial, I stitched out this design so that I could sew it into a pillow covering. I also showed on a live how I actually made the design. Well, my lives are kind of long, they're very interactive, we like to have a lot of fun, and so today's video is a condensed version to teach you how to make this design. Now I'm going to use two softwares. I'm going to use Silhouette Studio Business Edition. I use that because you can save your designs as SVGs, and then I'll use Brilliance. I have Brilliance Stitch Artist 2. That includes all the components of Stitch Artist 1, and I also have Essentials. Now that you've seen the pillow and you know what we're trying to make, let's go ahead and get started. The first software that I'm going to use is Silhouette Studio Business Edition. Now I'm going to use this to design the hello. If you're interested in checking it out, I have a link to it in the video description below. Once I've designed it, I'll take it into Brilliance and I'll add the stitches to it. Now if you have Brilliance Stitch Artist Level 3, you might be able to do this all in Brilliance. I just find it's easier for me to use both softwares. So we're going to start by adding the word hello. I'm going to click over here on the text tool. Then I can click over here anywhere on this palette. Then I can just start typing. I'm going to do this in all lowercase. So type hello. Then I'm going to go ahead and click off of it because there's really nothing I can do right now other than delete it and add other letters. So I'm going to click off of it, click on it, and then I'm going to drag it to make it larger. The other thing is I like to see mine in color. So I'll go to the fill style. And we're going to change that into kind of an orangey melon color. All right, I can get rid of that. Now let's choose a font. This is Arial. I also like to use Arial Black. I like to use Impact. But I think for today, I'm going to go ahead and stick with Arial. Let me look at that Arial Black again. That's a little heavy. Let's go back to Arial. Now I want to go ahead and change the size of this. Notice it looks like it's about 7.2 inches wide and about 3.8 inches tall. However, notice all this white space up here and down here. I want to get rid of that. Once you have the right font, then you can get rid of that white space by going up here to Object and then click on Ungroup. But once you ungroup it, you can't change the font. You just have to start over. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and drag this a little bit wider, but I mainly want it taller. And that looks pretty good to me. Now's the time that if I want to move any of these letters around, I can do that. And I know from doing this design before, I want my L's closer together because I don't want a shadow effect to go down between the two L's. So I'm going to select on this one and move it right a little bit, and then I'll select this one, move it left a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and move everything from the L to the right over, closer to E, and then let's just move this O closer to the L. This is all just personal preference on how you want it to end up. And it's going to take some trial and error, but after you kind of see how it works, you'll figure out the way you like yours spaced. And I think that's going to be fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and select all of them, and I'm going to go up to Object and Group. Now it's time to add my offset. Now in Silhouette Studio, it's called offset. You might call it a shadow, but in this software, it's called an offset. I have to have hello selected to offset it, but with it selected, I can go right here. Now, this is a newer version of Silhouette Studio. If you have an older one, your offset might be in an up and down line here, but you can also always go to Panels and Offset here. I'll just click over here on the right. Now that opened up my offset panel. There's a couple different ways you can use this feature. You can have an offset, which means it goes to the outside of the letters. Let me go ahead and cancel that and select hello again. Or you can have an internal offset. That's where it goes to the inside. Now this one is so large you can't really see it, so I'll make it smaller. That's what the internal offset looks like. That is not what I want, so I'm going to hit cancel. I'll select hello again, and I'll go to this offset. So let's click on it. And I have to decide, do I want rounded corners or do I want very squared off corners? And a lot of the times I use the actual font that I'm using to decide. Notice this Arial font is very squared off, so I'm going to move over here to the squared off corners. Now you see they are squared off. I want to use 0.2. That might be the right size for you. It just kind of depends on your design. But I'll say 0.2 and then I'll click apply. Okay, that looks great. Now I do notice this one little thing here that's just going to give me some drama. So let me go up here. Let me see if I can go to Object. I'm going to have to release the path and then I'll select it and I'll delete it. Now I want to put that path back together, so I'm going to select everything, hold the Shift key down, and then select on the original word hello to get rid of it. Then I can go right back up to Object and make compound path. All right, let's turn that another color. Let's go with a pink. And that's looking really good. Let's offset the pink layer. It is still selected, so I go right here to Offset. Click on Offset again. I'm going to stick with the 0.2 and I'm going to stick with the squared off corner. I'll say Apply, and I'll turn that to a light yellow. Then one more offset. The yellow offset is selected, and that's what we're offsetting, so I'll click Offset. And then in the offset panel, I'll click it again. We're still sticking with 0.2. We're still sticking with squared off corners. So I'll say apply. And then I want to change that back to the original orange that we used. So I'm going to use this little dropper tool. I'll click on it. And then I'll go find the color over here that I want. When I click on that color, the color that's now transparent will become this color. So here we go. Okay. So my design is done. Let me go ahead and X out of this, and I can go ahead and save this. So I'll go right here and I'll say File, Save As, and let's call this Hello 1, because there is an easy way to transfer this over and there's a hard way. And I want you to see both of those, or a more complex way. So we're going to call this Hello 1, and it's going to be an SVG. I'll say OK. Now let me go ahead and save this again in the less complex way. It'll be less complex when we get into Brilliance. I just spread everything apart and save it. So say File, Save As. This time we're going to save it as Hello 2. We are done with Silhouette Studio. I could go ahead and X out of it, but for now I'm going to minimize it in case I want to come back and fix something. Now we'll go ahead and open Brilliance. Like I said before, I have Brilliance Stitch Artist 2 as well as Essentials. What I'm going to do today is a Stitch Artist Level 2 feature. You have to have Stitch Artist Level 2 to bring in SVGs. To bring in the SVG, we're going to go right up here. We're going to click on this Create Designs icon. And once I do, you see these options over here popped up. A lot of different things popped up, but we're focusing over here. I want to bring in a vector or an SVG, so I'll click on Vector, and then we're going to go down there and we're going to find those files. Let's start with the harder one. Here they are. Here's the one that's going to make it more difficult. So I'll click on it and I'll say Open. Notice that when it comes into Brilliance, everything is red, and I can click on a lot of the parts and pieces, and they are not connected to the other parts and pieces that they go with. So that means you are hunting and pecking and finding the ones that you need to go together. Now I know the outside layer is right here. Let me change colors of it. So with it selected, I'll go to this red. And remember, we were going to do orange for the outside. So I'll select that and I'll say OK. Now I'm going to drag it out of the way to try to make things easier. Now if I click off of it, you can see it's orange. Now to me, the next way or the next part of it that I should go to is the main word, because the main word's easier to tell what goes with it than the other layers. So we're going to click on the H. There's no inside parts to an H. We're going to hold the Command button down, we're going to click on this inside part of the E. Then, holding Command down, we're going to click on this outside part of the E. We're going to click on the L, this L, the inside part of the O, and the outside part of the O. And you can see over here what ends up getting added to it. Then we're going to go to Edit and Group. And then we're going to change that, and we're going to change it to a yellow. I'll click on Go, and then I'll see my yellows. So let's just click this one right here and say OK. All right, let's drag it out of the way. Now it gets a little more complex, and it's more complex the more letters that you use, the more complex words that you use. We could keep going, but let me show you the less complex way. I'm going to go up here to the Select tool, click on it, and then select everything here and delete it. Now, to get this back to the right size, I'll click on the Navigate little icon up there and then click on the H. So if you remember, to bring in a vector or an SVG, you click on this Create Designs, then you click on Vector, and now we're looking for Hello 2. Here it is, so I'll select it and say Open. Now, just like the other one, even though we had it in different colors, it came in as all red. But if I make this where you can see all of it, this is a whole lot easier to know what goes together. So if I just selected this, all I'd get's the inside of that O. So just like last time, whoops, let me go up here to the Select tool and click on it. So I'm going to circle all the way around this hello that I want here. I'll go up to Edit, Group, and let's just change it a color. Doesn't matter what color, let's just start changing colors. Then we'll select, well, I was going to select this whole thing, but I think this is just going to add drama, this little piece here. So I'm going to select it and delete it. I'll drag my cursor all the way around it, go up to Edit, Group, and then let's just change that to a yellow. We'll drag it out of the way. Now this one doesn't need anything changed, but I do want to change the color. So with it selected, I'll click on the color, and we're going to change it to an orange. And let's just kind of drag it out of the way. And then we'll select everything over here, go up to Edit, Group, click on SVG Color. This time, I want that inside word to be the same as this outside. So I'm going to click on Palettes. Palettes shows you the colors that have been used in your design. So I want this layer to be orange, so I'll click on that and I'll say OK. All right, now you might think it's hard to get all these lined up where you want them, but it's really very easy. We're just going to select one, go up to Utility and say Center and Hoop. We'll select the next one, hit Utility and Center and Hoop. Now this is why you really needed to group those. Let's select the pink layer, Utility, Center and Hoop. And then lastly, we're going to select this yellow layer, go up to Utility and Center and Hoop. Let's go ahead and make this fill up the whole screen. We click on the navigation icon, then the H, and it's time to add our stitches. Now, if you want all your stitches to be the same width and the same type, you can just select everything all at once. Whoops, I accidentally let go. Then you go right up here to the Create icon and select the stitch that you want. In this case, we're just doing a satin border. And there you have it. Now, if you want more white space showing with everything still selected, you can click right here on Satin Border, and then that's going to allow me to adjust my stitch width all at the same time. So let's take this down to, let's take it down to 3 and see what that looks like. There's a little more white space, but let's go all the way down to 2.5. And I think that looks pretty good. Now I know that mine should be in the center of my hoop, which is how I always like to save my designs. But let's see if the Select tool is going to work. It is not, so I'll go up here and activate it. I'll select everything. With everything selected, I'll go up to Utility and I'll say Center and Hoop. Now it's time to save this. So I go to File, Save as, and I save mine as a stitch file and a working file. That way if I want to make some changes, I can go back into the working file and do that. So I'll click on Save As, and then we're going to call it EMB Pillow Hello. But you can put this on a shirt or anything that you want. Now my machine uses DST type files, but you have all these options as well. And then I'll just click Save. Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and stitch this on whatever I want. Now if you want to see how this is going to stitch out, go right up here to Stitch Simulator, click on it, and then you can just drag this and you can see it stitch out. I think that would stitch out beautifully. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, maybe learned something new. If you did, be sure and give me that thumbs up. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. So thanks again. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until my next video, bye-bye.